is to say crap. And that's my introduction. Please welcome AndromedasWake.
Thank you very much, Ian, for that incredibly concise and unflattering introduction, which we just wrote together just now. Yeah, I think I should say a few words about myself because I am far and away the least known speaker on the bill here. And, well, it's kind of a problem. Because, you know, I'm standing here, you have no idea who I am or what I'm going to talk about unless you looked at the program, which I know most of you didn't, because you were asking questions about it all day. And so I probably should introduce myself, give myself a name as well. I stand before you as an ambassador to the internet, obviously. And when I signed up to the internet a few years ago and got into skepticism, having seen a gentleman called Dr. Kent Hovind giving a talk on science, I decided to go with the name AndromedasWake. Sometimes it's abbreviated to AW, sometimes to Andromeda, and sometimes quite bizarrely to Andromedas. I think people don't realize that that is supposed to be that, but YouTube wouldn't let me have that, but I digress. So, my name, anonymity is of no concern to me really, and my name has been widely circulated on the internet, and actually, it has been widely circulated on the internet because a geocentrist ministry released it onto the internet. Now, I don't know what kind of badge of honors you've been collecting, but I'm holding that one pretty high. Although, to go to my website and dig out all my personal details and so on is just a little bit too Scientology for comfort, really. Just a little bit. So, my name is Tom. You can probably tell, some of you, that I have a Scottish name. My parents did not grow up in Scotland, but I did spend a few very happy years of my life growing up in Moray. I was an RAF brat, and my father was a fighter pilot at RAF Lossiemouth. And it's great to be back in Scotland, even if it's only for a day. What a day it's been, hey? Well, the things that I do on the net are my YouTube channel, AndromedasWake, and my own little corner of the internet project, the League of Reason Forum, which started out as a sort of spin-off of YouTube to counter free speech issues and that sort of thing, but it's really grown into something quite popular, and it's now getting, you know, many thousands of hits a month and lots of regular visitors. So if you want a place to go and argue with people on the internet, make it that one. It's okay, I don't make any money out of saying that. We have no ads or anything. I'm just saying, you know, rationalia, etc. ads. The internet is a very strange place. Sometimes someone will say something which winds you up just a little bit, and you don't always get the best out of people on the internet. YouTube is a particularly bad place to have any kind of discussion. Most of the discussion is done in video form, but occasionally some of it will reach text form, and I try not to dip into these things because it doesn't come off good when I do. However, you'll be pleased to know that Xavier White Pimp does still frequent my videos every now and then, despite the obvious fact that I am lame and gay. So I was trying to come up with a name for this talk, and what I want to talk to you about is a topic called fine-tuning. And I thought, I'll be a bit clever. So the name I came up with was A Rough Guide to Fine-Tuning. Yeah, I was expecting a little bit of applause, but yeah. See, now that's just guilted out of you. Well, A Rough Guide to Fine-Tuning. It's going to be really rough, I'm afraid. 45 minutes if I can possibly get away with that. But I want to start with a really simple question. And it may seem almost asinine, but I think it is quite a pertinent point. And that question is, how many people are there in this picture? Not that picture. I'm going to bring up a picture. But just, you know, it's not a trick. Just be honest. Just shout out how many people you can see in these pictures. One. We'll start simple. That is PZ Myers. Whether or not he is human is debatable, but certainly he's a person. We consider him a person. All right, let's ramp it up a little bit. Can I just say, I have no idea who that is. I know it's Phil Plait or whatever, but that guy in the background, what is he doing in that photo? If you know who that is, tell him to get in contact with me, because I'd like to buy that man a beer. All right, well, there's the back of someone's arm or something. So we'll say 4 people. What about this one? Are Wookiees people? So how many? Very good. All right, let's move on. What about this one? Hurry up, guys. I haven't got all day. I'll make it easy for you. It's 29. Quite right. And there are a lot of really cool people in this picture. There's Werner Heisenberg, giving a very dodgy look. Albert Einstein, of course. Marie Curie. I think that's Max Planck there. I think. But yeah, probably, 29 people, but probably the weight of contributions that these 29 people have made outweighs the contributions of millions born after them. These are 29 very important people. Well, I just want to show you one more picture, this one. Any ideas? None? As a skeptic, what would be your most honest answer? We don't know. We don't know is the most honest answer you can give. That is, of course, the Andromeda Galaxy. It's our nearest neighboring proper large galaxy. Actually, if you go out in central Glasgow with just a modest pair of binoculars and you look up, now is a very, very good time of year to do it, you can see that galaxy with just a small pair of binoculars. And when you do, you're seeing that 2.5 million year old light striking your eye. That's how you see it. So it's not just like looking at a picture like this, even though this picture seems more impressive. When you see it for yourself, you're seeing light that left the galaxy before modern humans had even emerged on this planet. And it's creating just a little spark in your brain. Sorry for that incredibly irrelevant piece of stargazing advice there. Let's get on with it. Look at that, I've filled 6.5 minutes already. Did I say that or just think it? As well, this talk is supposed to be about fine-tuning, so I guess we should talk about that. We need to start with a basic question. What is fine-tuning? I put out a video on my YouTube channel asking people to explain to me what they thought fine-tuning was, and I got loads and loads of responses. And of those responses, not very many people understood what it was in the context of physics. A lot of people understand the phrase fine-tuning to mean, tuning something to be perfect and tuning it very precisely. Maybe tuning your guitar strings or tuning the genome of an organism via evolutionary processes. But in physics, fine-tuning takes on a slightly different form, and it's important because there's some anthropic bias in the phrase fine-tuning, which we need to dispel a few myths about. So to get started, we need to talk about modeling, not the fun kind, physical modeling. Our experience is a simulation. This is a point that I can't overstress. I'm sure you're all aware of it because you all understand roughly how the brain works. But the brain is basically taking in data and it's converting that data into a simulation which you then perceive, and that is your experience of the world. What the natural world really looks like is a question you just can't ask because the way you perceive things influences the meaning of the word look. You can't see the natural world per se. You just see a simulation of it created by your brain, and you call it the natural world. But our sensory perception has limits. We see a very, very tiny part of the electromagnetic spectrum. We call it the V band, or visible band, or the optical band, rather, the optical window. And it amounts to, if you think of all the different wavelengths of light that can actually exist in the universe at the size that it is now, the amount that we see is 1 octillionth. Which is a very, very small amount of radiation. So what we see with our eyes is a selected part of the world, a part of the world that's useful to us, but it's not the whole picture. We don't see the ultraviolet light. We don't see infrared light. So to go beyond what our brains can do, we develop physical models. And physical models are written in the language of mathematics, and they allow us to extend our picture of reality, of nature. And I will probably use the words reality and nature interchangeably. Just bear with me. But models can experience things we can't, because models can go beyond. For example, scale. If we build a model of an atomic lattice, we can do so and draw a picture which we can perceive. And then if we use something like an atomic force microscope to be the sensory input for that model, we can have a look and confirm that, in fact, that is what atoms look like. And that is a real picture of atoms from an atomic force microscope. So it's important to recognize this distinction between nature itself and what we actually see. Our experience is limited, so we develop these physical models to go beyond, and the physical models behave a little bit like the brain of this giant monster that can see everything and experience everything, every scale, every resolution, and parts of the universe that we can't get to. A very great physicist of our age, or rather of the previous age, Niels Bohr, understood this principle very well, and he understood that just like our brain simulating the world for us to experience, physical models simulate the world for the model to experience and then translate them in such a way that we can understand them. It's not the task of physics to actually tell us exactly what nature is, what it's made of, its form, its substance. The task of physics is to give us what we can say about nature, what we can say is reliably true about nature, in the sense that we perceive it and the models perceive it. So I tried to take some of Niels Bohr's thoughts and put them into a principle, and I think if you take nothing away from this tonight, but one thing, make it this thing. This is the principle that I want to put forward. Physical models may represent, by which I mean depict, reality, but they do so in the way that maps do landforms. Even the most accurate maps can readily be distinguished from earth and water. In other words, the physical model is a map, the simulation in our brain is a map, nature is something else which we're just sensing. This is very, very important because the difference between a model and nature is central to the way that fine-tuning is discussed today between theologians and scientists. Now, if we take a physical model and we have to tune something very precisely in that physical model, but we have no explanation why we have to do it, we call it a fine-tuning problem. It's as simple as that. A fine-tuning problem could be, well, the position of something. It could be some numerical value. But let's take the case of void theory. Void theory is something that became very popular a couple of years ago. It's sort of fizzled out a little bit. There are still some researchers working on it. But the notion of void theory is that if we place the Earth in the center of a void, a very large void, and this includes the Milky Way and the local group and all the galaxies we can see, then we can explain the effects of dark energy. We don't need to invoke Einstein's cosmological constant or some other type of mysterious force to explain what we see as dark energy, this acceleration of the universe. However, much of the research that has surfaced about void theory is actually quite critical of it, this one as well, and also this one, because void theory suffers massive fine-tuning problems. And fine-tuning problems are not something we want in physics because they indicate some area of our model, some area of our understanding which is lacking. We don't want to be lacking in our understanding. So if I put the Earth in the middle of this massive cosmic void, then it's okay. But why is the Earth in the middle of a massive cosmic void? I can't put it anywhere else. I can't put it on the edge. I can't put it slightly off the center. If I try to move the Earth, my model no longer works. So I could plot the Earth's position from just, say, left to right of this two-dimensional void for the sake of ease. And then I could plot it against the matchup between my observations of dark energy and the predictions of my model. And because everyone else has had a graph in their lecture at some point, we have to have one. So that's what it would look like. And you can see that the precision with which I have to tune my model to match my observations is very high. That reflects a fine-tuning problem. I can't explain, I have no mechanism to explain why the Earth is there. Now, you could argue that this is just an example, and actually it's kind of a weak fine-tuning problem. We know that the universe has voids in it. It's lumpy in structure. It has large cosmic structures, superclusters, and it has large cosmic voids. And we could just randomly be in one of those voids. It could just be where we are. So, weak fine-tuning problem, but a fine-tuning problem nonetheless. But from this, we can construct a good definition of fine-tuning. It's setting a condition or a parameter with this great precision so that it matches up with your observations, but you have no mechanism to justify doing so. Or in other words, this bit has to be just right, but I've got no idea why. We have to summarize what we've learned so far in this, what has become a lecture, unfortunately. Physical models approximate nature. They're maps of nature. The requirements for arbitrary and precise parameters in models are known as fine-tuning problems.